Hi, welcome to my video on the review of fundamentals of geometry. This is the second half, and the reason I split it up into two pieces because I found that the geometry was too long and the video would have been too long, so break it up into two sections. You can treat the review, as in the previous ones, as a quiz or an assignment. The total score on this one is 51. So when you get your total on your pages all done and add it up, put the number over 51, divide 51 into your total, change it to a decimal, and then move the decimal two places to the right to get a percent, or multiply a decimal by 100 to get a percent, your choice. There are 5 pages in this one. This is the first one, so you need 5 blank pages to work out all the answers. And here we go. Page 2. Notice this is a practice, and a practice means you can pause the video, work all these answers out, and then press play to see if your answers are right. And when you do, put your score in here, and when you're finished, add it up for this page to get 20. Here we go. Number 1, using the numbers, state each. So we have 2 lines. This is the transversal. We have these angles. Alternate interior angle to 7. Alternate means across the transversal, so interior are these angles here, 1, 3, 6, 7. Alternate is to 7 is angle 3. Corresponding to 2, corresponding is on the same side of the transversal, but one is exterior and one is interior. So if 2 is exterior, so the corresponding one would be 3. Opposite, vertically opposite angle to 1. Vertically opposite is 2 intersecting lines. The vertically opposite angles are across the vertex, so that would be a 5. Same side interior angle. These are the interior angles again. And note that 2, 8, 4, and 5 are exterior. So these are interior. On the same side would be 6 and 3 on the same side of the transversal. Alternate exterior to 8. Alternate exterior would be on the outside, so exterior alternate would be 5. And what score did you get? Number 2, notice that M is parallel to M. That's the parallel symbol, 2 strokes close to each other. That's indicating that these 2 lines, and I put the arrows on them now, I'm saying that these lines are parallel. If these lines are parallel, that means that 2 equals 7. 2 and 7 are corresponding angles equal. Corresponding, and I'll just write down, okay, corresponding angles are equal when the 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal. 4 equals 7. 4 and 7 are alternate exterior angles equal. So alternate EXT angles. So when 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the corresponding angles are equal, the alternate exterior angles are equal. 3 equals 6. 3 and 6 are alternate interior. Interiors INT angles. And again, 2 parallel lines cut by transversal, the alternate interior is equal. So 2 equals 5 alternate interior. 2 and 6 are supplementary because when parallel lines are cut by this transversal, the same side interior angles are supplementary. So that's the same side interior angles are supplementary. In other words, if that one is 60, that's 120. And if that one is 60, then this one is 60 because they're alternate interior equal. And so these 2 angles are supplementary and these 2 angles are supplementary. As well as we know that 5 and 8 is supplementary because it's straight angle. 6 and 5 are supplementary because they're straight angle. There's all sorts of straight angles here. 3 and 4 is 180, straight angle. 1 and 2 is a straight angle, so they're supplementary. Number 3, A is parallel to B. I have the lines marked, see them, the arrows, but I indicated here. So if A is parallel to B, parallel lines, when you hear of parallel lines, you think of corresponding angles equal, alternate interior angles equal, alternate exterior angles equal, same side interior angle supplementary. All of these will come into play. So automatically, parallel lines means angles are equal. 9 out of 10 times. So let's go. And we have the two sides marked as equal. So that means if these angles are equal, angle G is equal to angle X, because the angle is opposite. So this angle here, G, is opposite this side, and X is opposite that side. So these angles, if these sides are equal, these two angles are equal. So parallel lines gives us angles equal. So that means that if that's a 70, X is 70. They're corresponding angles. That's exterior, that's interior. And if that's 70, that means G is 70. So that's 70. So G is 70 because they're equal. So G is 70. Remember, two sides equal, two angles equal. 70 and 70 makes 140. So Y is 40 because 180 in the triangle. So Y is 40 degrees. And if Y is 40, that means if that's 40, then H is 140 because we have a straight angle. So H is 140 because of a straight angle. And if X is 70, then that's 110 because that's a straight angle. So E is 110. And we have a 70 and a 70. Let's look here. 70 and 70. That makes 140. So that angle there, W, is 40 because it's a straight angle, and a straight angle adds up to 180. And another reason this is 40, if this angle is 40, this angle is 40 because this angle right here and this one are alternate interior. Notice the Z. When you form a Zorro, you get alternate interior angles equal. So that angle equals that one, alternate interior. And we have also that P, this angle right here, is equal to X. So that's a 70 because that's alternate interior. Notice the Z, Zorro. Z, parallel lines, alternate interior angles across the transversal are equal. And F, if that's 70, F is 110 because straight angle. There's a straight angle right here. So F is 110. Okay. Number 4. It says that OB bisects angle AOC. That means if it bisects, that means that angle is going to be equal to that one. So AOB equals COB. So if BOC is 40, that means that AOB is 40. That means that AOB is 40. Yep, got it done. And that means that AOC is 40 plus 40, 80. But you only had to get what AOB was. Okay, number 5. We're saying that FH in this diagram is perpendicular to PT. Perpendicular lines, this line right here is perpendicular to this one. So that means that's a right angle right there, and that's a right angle right there. That's the definition of perpendicular lines. And if we got 130 exterior angle here, that means this angle here is a 50 because that's a straight angle. And again, we got the two sides equal. So if these two sides are equal, that means the angles opposite those sides are equal. So that angle over there is 50, and that angle right there is 50. And let's go back into this triangle. There's a right triangle, 90. So if this is a 90, these two angles add up to 90. So that means that's a 40. And if that's a 50, and that's a 90, that means X is 40. So note, we can also say 90 plus 50 is 140. If that's 140 added together, then that's 40 to make 180. And the same right here. If that's 90 and 50, that's 140 total. This one is 40 because that adds up to 180. And X is 40 degrees. Number 6, it says that L bisects AB. L, this line right here, bisects this segment AB. So if that bisects that, that means that OA equals OB because bisect means cut in half. So if AB is 16, if all of this is 16, it must mean that that's 8 and that's 8. So OA is 8 because it's cut in half. Total your page to see how many I got right. And let's keep going. Number 7. Don't forget, pause the video, work all these out. And then when you're finished, press play and see if you got your answers right and total up your page. M is the midpoint of PT. This is the midpoint. Because that's a midpoint, that means it's in the middle. That means that that segment equals that segment. So MP equals MT. And if I had a length here, if that was 20, then that would be 10 and 10. Or if I knew that was 6, then we know that's 6, so that would be 12. So M is in the middle, and it bisects, like a midpoint is in the middle like a bisector. Number 8, XA is perpendicular bisector of HT. So XA, this segment here, is the perpendicular bisector. Now we know that the perpendicular bisector hits the angle where the lines intersect is in the 2 90s, and bisect means that it cuts it in half. So that means that AT is equal to AH. Perpendicular bisector is perpendicular to the line, and it bisects the line that it hits. Okay, what else? Triangle XHT. XHT is isosceles. This is an isosceles triangle. That means there's 2 sides equal. So if it says the base is H, if that's the base, that means that these must be the 2 sides equal in this triangle. Here's the triangle. So these are the 2 sides equal because the equal sides are not the base. And the base is 16. HT is 16. If that's 16, that means that's 8, and that's 8, because it bisects. Then it says that XH is 10. So XH is 10, so we put a 10 right there. I'm not worried about the meters. Just say 8 and 10. Now we want to find AX. We know we have a right triangle. And we know that what? C squared equals A squared plus B squared. That's the Pythagorean property on the sides of a right triangle. In this triangle right here, that means that the hypotenuse is C, and the 8 could be the A if you want, and this side right here, XA is B. So the hypotenuse is the C in this statement. A and B are the 2 other legs of the right triangle. So if C is the hypotenuse, that means C is 10. A is 8. And we have to find the other side, which we'll call the B. A lot of students will call it X if they want, but it'll make a difference. Then you have to square both of these. 10 squared is 100. 8 squared is 64. And B squared. Notice that 64 plus B squared is 100. That means 100 minus 64 is equal to B squared. And notice that B squared is 36. It makes sense. 36 plus 64 makes 100. So you subtract to get to 36. You got a B squared. So what number do you square? Well, B is equal to the square root of 36 because it's the inverse of the square. And the square root of 36 is 6. Again, what number do you square to get 36? Well, if you did the square root, you get the 6. So if you didn't do this step and you wrote down 6, you'd be right. So there's 3 marks for that one. So 1 for noticing the Pythagorean property, 1 for getting the sides, and then getting the 6. So there's 3. If you get part way and make a mistake, then give yourself 2 or 1. Number 9, a segment drawn from the vertex of a triangle to the midpoint of the opposite side. So what we're saying, if we take a triangle and we draw a segment from this vertex over to this side, right there, so that goes to the midpoint, so that makes those equal. So this is the midpoint of this side. So this is called the median. The median is drawn from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So if we take another triangle, which is this one, don't make any difference. So if this is the midpoint, so if I leave here and go to there, and if that equals that, and that's a midpoint, then this is the median from this vertex. A triangle has 3 medians because it has 3 vertices. Number 10, draw an altitude to the hypotenuse. An altitude means, think about an altitude as being perpendicular, height. If you're standing on the ground, pretend that's the ground, and you've seen a plane flying up in the air. There's the plane. And you were looking up directly overhead, you would get the height of that plane. So if the plane is flying, perpendicular to the ground is the height, the altitude of the plane that's in the air. So think about, in a right triangle, this right here, this side is an altitude. This is a vertex, this side is an altitude, because both of these are perpendicular to the opposite side. So an altitude is drawn from a vertex perpendicular to the opposite side. So if we leave here and go perpendicular here, that's an altitude. And there's one more. If this is the hypotenuse, C is the hypotenuse because that's the right angle, I have to leave here and go perpendicular to this side. So there's the altitude that I have to the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle, the longest side in a right triangle. Number 11, we have a triangle PVH, and we have PW going to this side, intersecting at W. If PW is an altitude, so if that leaves there and goes over to here, and is an altitude, that means it's perpendicular, because an altitude is from a vertex perpendicular to the opposite side. If it's a median, it leaves the vertex and goes to the midpoint. So if W is a midpoint, that means that that segment is equal to that one. So if this is an altitude and a median, perpendicular and a midpoint, it bisects. So PW is what we call the perpendicular bisector. Because if you look up at question 8, if XA is the perpendicular bisector, what's the perpendicular bisector? Perpendicular to the opposite side and bisecting it. So this is what this segment is, an altitude and a median at the same time. So we could say that's the perpendicular bisector, just a different way of making the statement. Number 12, state the name of each polynomial with, if you have 8 sides, did you memorize them? You have an octagon. O-C-T-A-G-O-N. If you got 6 sides, you got a hexagon. And if you got 10 sides, you got a decagon. So that's the names of those sides. And they should be memorized. I did a video on them in this before this review, and a whole section was working on the polynomials. So you should learn all the names. Number 13, how many diagonals can be drawn from vertex A in this polygon? Notice the polygon is A, B, C, D, E, F, in order. A, B, you go around in order to get this polygon. The polygon is convex, means all the diagonals are on the inside. So how many polygons can I draw from A? Or sorry, how many diagonals? I can't, that's not a diagonal, that's a side. So there's one there, going to E. There's another one here going to A. There's another one here going to C. So notice I have 3 diagonals coming from A. That one, there's many more diagonals. These are diagonals too, coming from different vertices. But from A, there's only 3. 3 diagonals. Remember, a side is not, that's a side, and that's a side. So there's only 3 diagonals coming from that one vertex. Total up your page to see what you have. Page 4 of 5. Number 14. Find the sum of the interior angles of a pentagon. The sum of the interior angles of a pentagon. Well, let's see. We have a formula called 180 times n minus 2. That's the formula for the sum of the interior angles. And a pentagon has 5 sides. So that means n is 5. So 180 times 5 minus 2. So that's 180 times 3. And that gives you 504. So the interior angles, again, the formula, and I'll write it down again, is 180 times n minus 2. Why n minus 2? Well, if you've seen the earlier videos developed this formula, and this formula have to memorize. Again, it's one of the facts that I have in my head for years and years and years, and it's still there. One of these days, it'll be gone. I'll forget it, or whatever happens. Anyway, n minus 2 times 180, where n is the number of sides, this is the number of triangles times 180. That's why it is. Find the measure of each angle of a regular nondegon. Nondegon is 9 sides. And we want the size of each regular interior angle. So let's get the interior angle. That means I have to get the sum, and I have to divide it by the number of sides. So let's work that out. 180. So the sum is, put 9 in the place of n, and there's 9 sides. So n is 9. So on top, that's the sum of the angles, and I'm going to divide it by 9. Again, the sum is 180 times n minus 2. So that's 180 times 7 divided by 9. And without multiplying, you had a calculator, you go 7 times 180 divided by 9. But watch, 9 into 9 goes once, 9 into 180 goes 20. So you can see the answer is 140 degrees. So each regular angle on the inside of a nondegon is 140 degrees. Again, to get each angle, it's the sum. The sum is S divided by the number. S is 180 times n minus 2. Okay, I also did a video on the exterior angles of a polygon. The exterior angles of any polygon always adds up to 360. It's a fact that you have to memorize. The exterior angles adds up to 360. Exterior, always, no matter what polygon you have. The exterior angles always add up to 360. The interior angles is up on the top, 180 times n minus 2, where n is the number of sides. 17. Find the measure of each exterior angle of a regular duodectagon. A duodectagon, dectagon is 10, so a duodectagon is 12 sides. So n is 12. So the exterior angle, each one, remember it's regular, so they're all equal. So that means if all the angles add up to 360, exterior, and you divide it by 12, then 12 into 36 goes 3, so you get 30 degrees. So each angle in a duodectagon, exterior, is 30 degrees. So you draw a diagram made of 12 sides. If you did the exterior angle, you will get 30, and there's 12 of them, so that gives you 360 total. Let's continue. All the radii of a circle are equal. In other words, when you draw a circle and you have your center, the radius, that's the center, that's the radius, that's the radius, that's the radius, and that's the radius. And we draw a circle with a radius by using the protractor. So all the radii are equal. So that equals that equals that. So if that's a 2, then that's 2, that's 2, and that's 2. If we pretend that this is a circle with 2 centimeters. Number 19, a chord passing through the center of the circle. So if you got a circle and there's a center, a chord is a segment that goes from one part of the circumference to the other. So if I leave here and go through the center and go over here, that's a chord. This is a chord also, but it's not going through the center. That's a chord, but a chord leaves the 2 points on the circumference and goes like that. A chord has endpoints on the circumference. So going through the middle, that's the middle, then that's called a diameter. The length of the circumference of a circle. The length of the circumference of a circle, I could say find the length of the circumference of a circle if the radius is 12. So the circumference is 2 pi r. So circumference is 2 times 3.14 if the radius is 12. So multiply all that out and see what we're going to get. Let's use our calculator and multiply that out, turn it on. So 2 times 3.14 times 12, and we have 75.36. 75.36. 75.36. And it says to the nearest tenth, so the answer is 75.4. Because that's a 5, this number here is 5 or greater, you add 1 onto this. So that becomes a 0. So you get a 7, 5, 4, 0. And the 0 is omitted when you write it here. And again, that's in centimeters. If the diameter of a circle is 9.4 feet, find the length of the radius. We know that the diameter is twice the radius. And if your diameter is 9.4, that equals 2r. So if you divide both sides by 2, you get 4.7. So it's 4.7 feet. And most students would say the diameter is 9.4. They would just divide by 2 to take half of it. They wouldn't write down the formula. But I like to write down the formulas and see how it works because you're dividing each side by 2. Okay, that one is done. And the last page, pertaining to the section on quadrilaterals, did a video on quadrilaterals. A quadrilateral with only one pair of opposite sides parallel is called a trapezoid. As a reminder, don't forget, you pause the video, work all these out, and then play it back to see how many you got right. And don't forget when you add up the total. And we got a trapezoid. Remember, one pair of parallel sides. Only one pair. Note. Again, there's a difference in the world. If you call it trapezium or trapezoid, I say only one. That's what I do. But again, talk to your teachers because your teachers is evaluating you when they're teaching the course. Only one pair of parallel sides, not two. Classify each quadrilateral. A quadrilateral with all sides equal. If you got all sides equal, you have a rhombus. So a rhombus is like this. A rhombus is like a parallelogram, but it's all sides equal. And it don't have a right angle. It could, but it don't need to. Opposite sides are parallel, so that means if I got opposite sides are parallel, that means I got two pairs of opposites. So that side is parallel to that side, and that one is parallel to that one. That's called a parallel. That's how I'm going to put down parallelogram. Parallel lines, ogram. Short abbreviation. If you got a rhombus, a quadrilateral with all sides equal and a right angle. So if you got all sides equal and you make it a right angle, then you have a square. A square has, here's a square. A square has all sides equal and a right angle. Not only that, if it has one right angle, it also has 4 now. It has 4 because parallel lines. See, these lines are parallel right here. And these same side interior angles are supplementary, so that's 90-90. And so these lines are, that line right there is parallel to this one right here. So that means that's supplementary, so that's a 90. So if you get 4 sides equal with one right angle, you got 4 right angles, so you got a square. And if you have 4 right angles, well, notice how 4 right angles will give you a rectangle, definitely. Reason we say a rectangle, 4 sides equal, we do not know if all the sides are equal, but we do know if 4 sides are equal, it's still a parallelogram. So we know that that's equal to that, and that one is equal to that one. So it's like a parallelogram, only you got a right angle in it. If you memorize all these and look at the properties, you will look at these more extensively when we do proofs on quadrilaterals, which is another unit coming up later. 24. We say that ABCD is a rectangle. We know that a rectangle has all right angles. These are all right angles in these corners. If that be the case, if that's a 40, then that's a 50, because this angle here adds up to 90. And if we know if that's 50, then we know as 90 is 140, so we know that's 40. Or we know that that side is parallel to that side because it's a rectangle, and these are alternate interior angles equal, form Zorro. So we have angle D is 90, done. We got angle 1 is 40, and we got angle 2, which is right there. 2 is DAC, 2 is 50. Good. A rhombus with a perimeter of 24. So a rhombus has all sides equal. So the perimeter is 4 sides. P equals 4s is one way. So if the perimeter is 24 and s is the side, if you divide by 4, you get s equals 6. So it's 6 is the answer. So if all of these are equal here, and they add up to 24, then you got 6 and 6 and 6 and 6. So if you take the 24 and divide it by 4, you'll get 6 if you don't go through this formula. Number 26, PQRS is a rhombus. When we think of a rhombus, we think of all the sides equal. Rhombus, all sides equal. And if all the sides are equal, and that's an 80, well, in this triangle here, we got an isosceles triangle. So if that's 80, there's 100 left over. So 100 divided by 2 gives us 50. So that's 50, and that's 50. And we also know that that's parallel to that. So if that's 50, this is 50, because there's 0, the alternate interior angle. That angle there equals that one, because they're alternate interior. So x is 50. Number 27. A square has an area of 25. Find its perimeter. So the area of a square is A equals S squared. And if the area is 25, so we have 25 is S squared. So take a guess. What number do you square to give you 25? You would say 5. But mathematical way is still, if you got a square, then you do the square root of the other side. And that means S, you gotta be careful, that's an S, equals 5. And if you got a square, which is this, a square has all sides equal, and a square has a right angle, or 4 right angles. So all sides equal and all angles equal. So if one side is 5, and 5, 5, and 5, that means you have a 20 for its perimeter. Or you could say P equals 4S. So that's 4, and that's a 5. That's an S. This is a 5, so you get your 20. So 20 centimeters. So you do the square root to get the length of the side, and then you multiply by 4 to get the perimeter. That takes us through the final review on this unit on geometry. The fundamentals of geometry is fully done with all the videos I have there. And if you like what I'm doing, then click on the like button. If you're not a subscriber already, well, click the subscribe button. And if you click the notification bell, then there's more videos coming on my YouTube channel. And if you want, write a comment and visit my math website at www.mathfullyexplained.com. And there's information in 3 sections: me, videos, and content. Me has my degrees and teaching experience. The videos tells about the teaching strategies you're going to use to help you learn the math, because I have certain tricks and concepts and ideas about teaching over the years of all the years I've been teaching. And the content, well, in that section you have the topics that's there online, and the topic is going to be online. Plus you have the number of videos on each topic. And the black font is the topics already put online up on my YouTube channel, and the red font is the ones that will be there in the near future, and they'll be changing from week to week and month to month. Thank you very much. Bye bye.